What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you the profile that you lot wanted to see more than the others from the poll, and that is of course Red Eyes Black Dragon featuring the Primites. So if you haven't seen it already, go and check out the Dark Magician Primite video. It kind of shows you what the Primite engine is, how it can help utilized in a normal based deck. And what I really do like about the engine is it again makes the deck revolve around the normal monsters that you are playing. So it revolves around Dark Magician, it allows you to revolve around Red Eyes Black Dragon a little bit more. Now this is a little bit different from the Dark Magician build because the Dark Magician build has more spells and traps to be able to be utilized to make it more of a control based deck. Whereas this one does have a nice aggressive edge, and this kind of features my new formula for the Dark Magician build involving the Dogmaticas, but it also involves a formula that allows Red Eyes to kind of operate as it wants to as well, without needing to be Red Eyes Fusion Turbo with only giving you access to one monster, or of course just Burn Turbo, because sometimes that can be a little bit boring. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. If you want to see the updated Dark Magician version of this build, then make sure you get the video above 50 likes in the first 24 hours, and I'll be more than happy to bring that for you. So with all of that out of the way, we're going to dive headfirst into the profile, show you what we've got, and explain why we've got it. So, as it does revolve around the main boss monster being Red Eyes Black Dragon, we are playing 3 Red Eyes Black Dragon. Now, I apologise that these two aren't in the sleeves. I wanted to show you the quarter century versions of this, and it's my favourite artwork for Red Eyes, but these two are still sealed. This was the only one that I had that wasn't sealed, and I wasn't really going to unseal them to put them in a sleeve, and they wouldn't fit in a normal sleeve. But regardless, you're going to be playing 3 of this guy because you are going to burn through it so quickly, it is crazy. You have so many different ways. Primite Lordy Lord will allow you to get it from the deck. You also have the ability of using Primite Raw that will get it from the deck. You've got ways of going into rank 7s, you've got ways of bringing it back from the graveyard. You will go through this very, very quickly. Now, just as a note, because I didn't know this at the time of recording the Dark Magician build, but the Primite Lordy Lord, just as we skip forward a little bit, has 2 effects. The first effect allows you to add a Primite card from the deck to the hand, except itself, but then its second effect is it allows you to declare a normal monster card name, so Red Eyes Black Dragon, and then you get to special summon the declared normal monster from the hand, deck, or graveyard in defense. However, also, you cannot activate the effects of special monsters on the field this turn. Now, that is a little bit misleading, as it doesn't say for the rest of the turn, but the effect is it's all part of one. So if you don't activate the effect to special summon, you don't lock yourself from using special summon monsters, and it's only from that point on, once you've activated it. It doesn't even back count or backtrack. So unlike something like Branded Fusion, this was the best example I was given, unlike Branded Fusion and Pot of Prosperity that are part of the effects to you can't draw or you can't summon anything else apart from that, this is part of the resolution. So it has to resolve, it has to do everything it needs to do, and then it's an also effect, so you do A, then also do B at the same time. So if you don't do A, you don't do B, and it doesn't back count. So you can still use Special Summon Monsters effect on the field, and then activate Lord of Lord to get you another vanilla from the deck, which you're going to be utilising more in this version, because that's going to allow you to get into rank 7, stuff like your Red Eyes Flare Metal, because that's going to burn your opponent down, and that's what's going to really cause your opponent a lot of issues. Then we do play the Honorary 1 Dark Magician because we are still playing Red Eyes Fusion in this version. We do have access to Dragoon. We're also playing another very spicy spell card that will help you get into Dragoon if you choose not to go down the Red Eyes Fusion route. And what I do like about it is you can actually search this Fusion spell out of the deck utilising the Dogmatica package, and that's when you're going to be able to get a Dragoon on the follow-up on the next turn and still be able to put more monsters on the board to help you complete an OTK. We're then playing triple Red Eyes Black Meteor Dragon. Now, I did look at the other Red Eyes Black Dragon, but I didn't think it was that relevant. Yes, it's great in a burn version of the deck because it's one of them ones that lets you get it to the board from the grave. You've got a quick effect to ditch it from the hand or the field to summon out a Red Eyes Black Dragon. But ultimately, I felt that the Red Eyes Black Meteor Dragon was a better option because this one lets you send a level 5 or higher normal monster from the hand or deck to the graveyard. So this allows you to send a Dark Magician from the deck to the graveyard, which is absolutely fine because you want it there for your fusion spell. And then what you can do is you can save the Red Eyes Fusion to actually get you into your Meteor Black Comet Dragon. So you have 2 different ways of getting an outcome that you might be looking for. If that wasn't enough, you get to special summon this card from the hand and then increase its level by 1, making it a level 7. So it has that utility to be that level 6 dragon from the deck, but it also has that utility to be a level 7 dragon on the board to help you go into your rank 7 plays. And then during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you get to banish it from the graveyard to add a Red Eyes Fusion from the deck or graveyard to the hand. So it allows you to recycle the Red Eyes Fusion, which is why we are not relying on that particular spell card massively in the deck, as you want to put on more than just one monster to your end board. Then we've got Black Metal Dragon. Unfortunately, not a Red Eyes card, but I mean, I don't know if I would want it to be a Red Eyes card or not, but this one lets you target a Red Eyes monster you control, equip this monster to from the hand or field to it as a target. It gains its own attack, but in general, if it is sent from the field to the grave, you get to add a Red Eyes card from the deck to the hand. Now that's really, really useful because this is going to allow you to get into 2 of your main deck boss monsters. One of them being the Red Eyes Black Full Metal Dragon, which basically sets itself up as an Omni Negate, which is why you don't want to be relying on Red Eyes Fusion so much, because if you activate Red Eyes Fusion, yes, of course, you're going to need to wait till you get to your opponent's turn anyway, but then you can tribute out and get a full Black Metal Dragon. But the idea is that I can be able to get this out, and this just adds an additional board breaker on the board, a negator on the board, and just a general boss monster. It can also get you access to your Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, which is really kind of cool as well. Just again, an additional boss monster, which is why I'm kind of looping back to this whole idea that Red Eyes Fusion, in my opinion, is one of my most favorite fusion spell cards. However, its restrictions are so kind of like 2010. It's too restrictive for the modernized game. Like you can see all of the fusion spells have been updated since. I would have no issue if it literally just said Red Eyes Fusion. When you activate this card or after this card's resolution or for the entire turn, you can only summon Red Eyes monsters. I'd be happily fine with that one. And in order to get more access to your Red Eyes spells and traps and send your Red Eyes from deck to the graveyard, you're going to want to play triple Red Eyes Insight. So you send a Red Eyes monster from the hand or deck to the graveyard to then add a Red Eyes spell or trap from the deck, except itself. So your targets are going to be your Red Eyes Fusion and also your return of the Red Eyes. Ideally, you're probably going to want to go for your return of the Red Eyes, as you have more ways to get to this directly. But the idea behind both of these is the return of the Red Eyes is if you control a Red Eyes monster, except Red Eyes B-Chick, you can target a normal monster in your graveyard and special summon it. If this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, you get to target a Red Eyes monster in the graveyard, except Red Eyes B-Chick, and special summon it. You can only use each effect once per turn. It's basically just a continual reborn of a Red Eyes, which is absolutely insane when you get to the Primite cards, because the Primites want to be tributing off that Red Eyes Black Dragon. We're then playing 2 Max Metal Morph. Now, I'm still playing around with the ratios for this particular card, and what I mean by that is, the idea is that you're going to want to be able to get into your Red Eyes Full Metal Dragon. I'm just going to move these out of the way so we can read all of them at the exact same time. But the idea is that your Red Eyes Black Full Metal Dragon can get you to your Max Metal Morph, but your Max Metal Morph can't really get you to your Red Eyes Black Full Metal without tributing a monster to summon it from the deck. So the idea is you've got your Black Metal Dragon, which can get you into your Red Eyes Black Full Metal, which meant that I kind of felt more comfortable playing less of this than I did playing more of this. The other issue is if you play 3 Max Metal Morph, you're not going to, you will brick on it, because the idea is you're only going to be able to resolve this once unless you put the Red Eyes Black Full Metal back into the deck. So the Full Metal lets you reveal it in the hand to then set a Max Metal Morph, which is absolutely fine, because by the time you've worked your way to search out the Full Metal Dragon, you're going to end up setting up a monster or a dragon that is level 5 or higher, which is very easily done, because that can be your Red Eyes. It can also be your Primite Imperial Dragon once it's done its job. So you've got loads of different targets to get this guy out. You could very easily play a 2 and a 2, which is why I'm still playing around with the weight ratios to see how I feel. But the idea is that I feel that I've got 4 ways of getting to my Red Eyes Black Full Metal Dragon in general without bricking on a high level monster that I can't do a huge amount with. But then I've also got loads of ways of getting a level 5 or higher dragon on the board so that I can activate and resolve the Max Metal Force. So Max Metal Morph. So you get to tribute a face-on monster, the special one monster that cannot be normal summoned or set that mentions Max Metal Morph from the hand, deck, or graveyard, and then you equip this card to it with the following effect. The equipped monster gains 400 attack and defense, and it cannot be destroyed by spell and monster effects. Also, your opponent cannot target it with monster effects or spell effects. So the best thing about that is you're going to get this to a 3800 boss monster, and then this has the ability that when your opponent activates a card or effect, you get a quick effect to negate the activation, and then you get to inflict damage to your opponent equal to the original attack of an attack position monster your opponent controls. So it is a great utility. It's definitely a Red Eyes card through and through. I haven't really found the space for it yet in the main deck to be playing free, but if you're like, I don't want to play a Dogmatica package, I don't want to play a Bestial package, I don't want to play anything like that, then you could very easily just max this out if you wanted to and max out the Max Metal Morph. Heck, you could even try one of the other Bandit Keith cards like the Metal Zoa and give that a spin as well. Moving on to the Primite cards, we are playing 2 Primite Imperial Dragon. Now, the reason this is so good is it is a level 6 dragon, so it actually can be utilized as fusion material for your Meteor Black Comet Dragon as well. But the idea behind this one, if you don't know what the Primites are, it can't be normal summoned except by tributing one normal monster, but it can be normal set. During your opponent's main phase, you get a quick effect to reveal this card in the hand, and immediately after the effect resolves, normal summon a Primate monster. You can only use each effect once per turn, and then if this card is tributed or tribute summoned, you get to apply the effects in sequence. Negate the effects of all face-on monsters your opponent controls, and then banish all monsters your opponent controls with the same type or attribute as a normal monster in your graveyard. So it will be either a dragon or a dark. So you're going to be able to cover both bases with that one. It can also hit spellcasters as well if you have your Dark Magician in the graveyard, so keep that in mind. The reason the dragon is so good is you get to utilize a card called Primite Lordy Lord. So when this card is activated, you add a Primite card from the deck to the hand, and your one you're going to want to go for is your Primite Roar that I'll talk about in a second. Then as a secondary effect, you declare a normal monster card name, Dark Magician or Red Eyes Black Dragon, which you're probably going to be doing Red Eyes Black Dragon more times than not. You get to special summon the declared monster from your hand, deck or graveyard in defense, but you cannot activate the effects of special summon monsters on the field this turn. Now I really wish, like the slightest of, for the rest of this turn, there is no difference from this card saying for the rest of the turn or for this turn. Just for the rest of the turn is so much more clearer, because when I did this, I was like, oh, I guess this back counts. This counts if you've already activated a special summon monster's effect, but it doesn't do that. It basically just says, from this point on, when you've activated this effect, from that point on, you are going to be locked out of special summon monster's effect. And it's like, well, bro, why couldn't you just say for the rest of the turn? It's the exact same outcome. Anyway, I digress. On top of that as well, you can only use each effect once per turn, but normal monsters and primal monsters you control gain a 300 attack for each normal monster with different names in your graveyard. So again, this one's going to be a little bit different from the Dark Magician one, because you can actually set up by getting 600, because if you have a Dark Magician and a Red Eyes, you make your Red Eyes Black Dragon a base of 3k, and you can also make your Imperial Dragon a base of 32. So you're just basically putting loads of Dragon boss monsters on there. I've also tried to avoid Dragon Link where at all possible. I didn't want this to turn into a Stylish Safer and play a full Bestial engine and everything else. I wanted it to be Red Eyes, Primite, and then everything else that was utilised as engines in it have double usage. They're either being used as a hand trap or an extender for the deck that actually synergizes with the Red Eyes, or it's going to be cards that allow you to lock your opponent down, but also then search you out a follow-up for the next turn, which I'll explain as we go on. So then, of course, we are playing triple Primite Roar. This one, you pay 2,000 life points to declare a normal monster card name. The declared normal monster and primal monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle until the end of your opponent's turn, which is really, really good if you already control Red Eyes, because then you basically just say, cool, my Red Eyes can't be destroyed by battle, and you turn it into a bit of a wall. On top of that as well, if you control no monsters, you get to special summon one declared normal monster from the deck in defense. On top of that, if your opponent normal summons a monster, you can banish this card from the graveyard, target a normal monster you control or in your graveyard, and banish one monster from the field with less attack than that monster. So obviously you'll be covered with Red Eyes, which is why I'm saying you're going to be sending it to the graveyard like no tomorrow, and you'll also be covered with a Dark Magician. We're then playing the one Primite Drill Beam. This is something that I'm bouncing back and forth with, and it's definitely a version that I feel I'm probably going to stick with more times than not, just because it requires a little bit more. It might be a little bit more consistent in a Red Eyes build, because you have so many different ways to get it back to the board, especially when you're looking at stuff like your Red Eyes Metal. Being able to bring that back to the bring back an original Red Eyes from the graveyard can be massively important. But this one lets you reveal a Primite card or a normal monster in your hand, or if you control a level 5 or higher Primite or a normal monster except a token, you can activate without revealing a card. You get to target a face-up card on the field, negate its effects, and if you do, you banish it. On top of that as well, is during your main phase, if you control a Primite monster, you get to set this card from the graveyard. So you get to recycle it, because the idea is you're going to set this, trigger it during your opponent's turn as a interactive form of card, and then during your turn, you'll be able to reset it, and then if you can't complete an OTK, you have a follow-up. Moving on to, let's do the non-hand traps first, and then we'll do the hand traps. So the Spicy Fusion card we're playing is the one Magicalized Fusion, and the reason we're playing this is because with the Dogmatica package, you can actually send your Albulanatus, which allows you to add a fusion spell. And yes, of course, this only lets you get a spellcaster, but the best thing about that is when you're using, and going back in time a little bit, you've got your Primite Roar that will get you a Dark Magician into rotation, but you've also got your Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon that will get you a Dark Magician to the graveyard. So you've got multiple ways of getting it to the graveyard first, and then you start sending your Red Eyes. So what it comes back to is you go draw for turn, and you can go, okay, cool, activate Magicalized Fusion, banish a Red Eyes, banish a Dark Magician, bring out Dragoon, and you can still continue to make some plays. Of course, your Albulanatus can also search out your Red Eyes Fusion, but you already have another way of doing that with the Red Eyes Black Meteor Dragon. So you've got loads of different ways to get to Red Eyes Fusion anyway. I just thought this was kind of a nice little option that if you weren't locking yourself down with a Winterlock, if you weren't locking yourself down with a Red Eyes Fusion, how much further can you go to complete an OTK? And the best thing about this is you'll have this in your hand. So the only time this will ever become dead is if your opponent does Bestial out your Dark Magician from the graveyard and you can't recycle it. But the idea is that if they don't do that, you get to go, cool, draw phase, standby phase, main phase, Magicalized Fusion. And if they can't stop that resolving, straight away you get a Dragoon on the board that can become that Omni-Negate Protector from everything else you want to play to build up your board. And of course you can still go Dragoon, effect, pop, Dragoon, effect, pop. You've cleared off 2 of your opponent's interactive monsters or baited them out, and then you're able to continue to play. We've got Call by the Grave to deal with pesky hand traps, and then we are playing the Nadir package. Now the reason for this is obviously Nadir's Servant becomes that combo card that once you've done all of your plays, you don't even really lock yourself under the Lordy Lord so much. You will lock yourself if you bring down the Dogmatica Maximus, but the only time that you'll actually bring down the Dogmatica Maximus is if you want to be going through the Ablonatus play. If you just want to get to the Winterlock play, the idea is you activate Nadir 7, you send El Shaddol Apcalone from the extra deck to the graveyard. That will search you out your Shaddol Schism. You then discard a card, so obviously put a Red Eyes in the graveyard if you want to, and then straight away, as long as you have a Dark and that Apcalone in the graveyard, during your opponent's turn, you activate Schism, and then you Winterlock them, backed up by a Red Eyes Flare Metal, and ultimately backed up with your normal summon of your Primite Imperial Dragon, which is a normal summon, not a special summon, so it doesn't collide with your Winterlock. Plus, you'll also have the Primite Roar that can then banish a normal summon. So you've just got so many different options that kind of keep ticking away at your opponent, that the only thing that really hurts you is if they imperm your Winder, but then you hold the Schism back until they get into a position where they can't imperm you anymore. So it works out really, really well, and that's where the Red Eyes Fusion comes into play, because with your Red Eyes Fusion, you're only going to be allowed one summon anyway, so you bring it back to yourself, you can activate Red Eyes Fusion, you can still activate Nadir Servant, still set up the Winterlock, and you're basically going to go, cool, I've got a Winterlock, plus I've also got a Dragoon on the board. So there's loads of different ways that you can shift the strategy of the deck, which works out really, really nicely. And then, of course, we've got the one, Dogmatica Maximus. So the idea is that if you're not locked under the Lordy Lord because you didn't summon out another Red Eyes to make a Red Eyes Flare Metal, you activate Maximus, you banish the, don't banish the Apcalone, you'd actually banish something else. You'd go Nadir Servant, send something like a Garura to get you an additional draw, banish the Garura, summon down the Maximus, Maximus effect, send Ablonatus and Apcalone. You would then be able to go Apcalone, search out Schism, Ablonatus in the end phase will trigger to get you a Magical Eyes Fusion or a Red Eyes Fusion, whichever one you feel you need the most, and then you'll be sitting there with a 3k Defender on top of everything else that you need. For the hand traps plus extenders plus their level 6 dragons that work with your Meteor Dragon, we are playing 3 Bestials, 1 Druid Swarm, Magnemute, and of course Bulldrake. So this is obviously an interactive hand trap that can also search you out your synergy, because if you drop a Magnemute during your opponent's turn, you can automatically search yourself out a Black Metal Dragon, or of course you can search out any of your other dragon monsters. You've just got loads of ways of being able to keep that consistent, and then you've also got your disruptors and your hand traps and everything else you need. Of course, triple Imperm and triple Ash Blossom, just pretty standard on this one. You can adapt these to whatever hand traps fit your environment. It is a 43 card deck, so there are cards you probably could cut if you wanted to, but you also don't have an issue burying some of your vanilla monsters, because more times than not, you don't really want to be seeing your one-offs like your Schisms, your Dark Magicians. You want to be sending them directly from deck to grave. So moving into the extra deck, we'll start with the fusion monsters. So we'll start with the fusion monsters that you're actually going to summon. So the two you're going to actually summon will be your Meteor Black Comet Dragon and your Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. On the very, very odd occasion, you could actually Magical Eyes Fusion into a Winder, because you also have Winder plus any Dark Monster, which is a spellcaster, so you're in a good stead there. But more times than not, your Magical Eyes Fusion gets you here, your Red Eyes Fusion gets you here, but of course Red Eyes Fusion can also get you here, so you've got a bit of both. Of course, you've got your Apcalone, you've got your Winder, so you're going to send your Apcalone off of the Nadir Servant. You're going to be able to set up your Winder during your opponent's turn. And if you wanted to, you could play 2 of this, because very rarely do your opponent get rid of Schism. They actually get rid of Winder, and then you activate the Schism again, banishing the Winder and another Dark, which will then set you up with a second Winder. You've got your Garura that you'll send off in the Nadir Servant. Of course, you've got your Elder Entity Unt, so you've got your Aggressor, you've got your Drawer, and then you've got your Searcher for your Fusion spell. And then the Link monsters. You've got your Striker Dragon that you're going to turn your Black Metal Dragon into, and if you get another dragon extended to the board like a Red Eyes Black Dragon, you can actually go into Spheres. Spheres can of course summon out a Magnemute during your opponent's turn. It can summon out any of your other dragon monsters that you might feel are effective for you. And then of course you've got your IP Masquerena leading you into SP Little Knight. If you don't have access to SP Little Knight, you can take this out very easily and go for a Nightmare Unicorn. You'll be able to control your hand resource in this particular version of the deck very easily, so that's where you can still sacrifice for a Nightmare Unicorn. But if you want to make this deck to its top potential, you will willingly be playing something like an SP Little Knight. And then for the XYZs, it's really up to you. You can play 3 Red Eyes Flare Metal, but spoiler, I'm only playing 2. And the reason I'm only playing 2 is I wanted to find the space for a Big Eye and a Draco Sack. But honestly, you don't need to play the Draco Sack. You can very easily make this a Red Eyes Flare. This can also become your second Winder if you want to. You have flexibility. The way that I kind of looked at it was it was going to be very rare that I ever put 3 Red Eyes Flare Metals on the board. But then if your locals has Mimigles running around, you might want to consider putting 3 Red Eyes Flare Metals in there. You have the option to do so. It really is up to you. I wanted to show you a bit more of a range than just 3 of this, 3 of this, 3 of this, 3 of this in the extra deck. but I feel that you can very easily play 3 of this or 2 of this. It really is up to you and your personal preference. Like I said, the idea behind this is you want to be able to utilize the Red Eyes Flare metal, start chipping away at your opponent's life points by burning them down, bring back a Red Eyes during your opponent's turn, which also sets up your Primite plays, and then be able to work your way further forward from there, so that when it comes back to you, you're able to trigger something like a Red Eyes Fusion, trigger a Magical Eyes Fusion, and hopefully push in for an OTK game. If you're going second, Red Eyes Fusion can be one of your best cards because it's very hard to stop that. Yes, if they have an Ash Blossom, okay, whatever, it gets stopped. But you still have your hand traps to fall back on. You've got your Red Eyes Fusion. You can bait out the Ash Blossom with a Lordy Lord, which really does kind of make your opponent go, oh, what does this card do? Oh, it searches, quick, Shotgun and Ash. And you're like, okay, Red Eyes Fusion, and they can't really stop it. You get a Dragoon on the board that's going to have its 2 pops and 2 burns. You do that job, and more times than not, just a 1 punch from a Dragoon will get that job done for you. But even if it doesn't, you're still sitting on the Dragoon. You still have the ability of a Primite Roar if you need to activate during your opponent's turn, which will then allow you to search out a Red Eyes Black Dragon or summon out a Red Eyes Black Dragon if they clear off the Dragoon. So you've got loads of different options there, and the best thing about that is the Roar will also be allowed to trigger on your opponent's normal summon. So you're just picking your opponent's board apart, you're depleting their life points down to as low as you possibly can without going into a full FTK burn version of Red Eyes, but you're also balancing the Primites with the Red Eye strategy as well, which is what I feel make this deck really, really fun in comparison to just going, okay, well, it's a Dragon Link deck with a couple of Red Eyes cards, or it's a Metal Morph deck. I wanted this to be a Primite version of the deck. I suppose the only real major criticism is playing the Nadir package, but like I've explained on this one, the reason the Nadir package is so good is it gives you a very, very good defensive option. It gives you an option for going second as well by being able to dump stuff like Natis, being able to dump stuff like Garura, being able to set up a window lock, but also allows you to search out your Red Eyes Fusion, your Magical Eyes Fusion, and allows you to get into your boss monsters for Red Eyes. I feel the biggest issue with Red Eyes in today's game in general is the fact that Konami kind of went down a route of they didn't know what to make it. So like Dark Magician is the spell trap kind of element from the original anime. Blue Eyes is the insanely powerful aggressor from the anime. And it was like, well, what do we make with Red Eyes? And it seemed that with Red Eyes, they were going down a very strong burn route. Like a lot of their monsters burn. So your Meteor Black Comet Dragon burns. You've got the Red Eyes Soul burns as well. And everything else that it does, it wants to burn your life points out. But everyone knows that a burn deck is like relatively degenerate in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! So I feel that it needs a bit of a refresh. I feel that the most modernized version of a deck like this is, of course, the Dragon Link version of the deck, but I still wanted to keep the essence. I felt like this is a deck that I could see Joey playing, minus like maybe the Nadir cards. I feel the Nadir cards are definitely more Yugi focused, but I do like the hybrid that you get with this as well, of having that feel of Yugi's deck in it, as well as mainly Joey's as well. So it's like, here you go, Yugi has lent cards to Joey, and this is what he would kind of play in a modernized era for a bit of fun as well. Anyway, that is the list for you. If you do have any questions, by all means, please put them in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. This is still in its testing phases. This is something that I've been working on a little bit alongside the Dark Magician version, and I felt that the two could be slightly interchangeable, and I thought it'd be something good to show you guys as well, as you wanted to see it. Like I said at the start of the video, if you want to see the updated version for the Dark Magician deck, then make sure you get the video above 50 likes in the first 24 hours, and I'll be more than happy to bring it for you. But for now, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.